I used to stay up at night, worrying about whether I'd accidentally committed the unforgivable sin. Then I discovered what Jesus actually meant, and it brought me incredible peace. Let me show you through Lego animation what I learned. What if you could believe that every wrong you had ever done could be completely washed away? Before Jesus introduced the idea of an unforgivable sin, most Jewish people held a remarkably expansive view of forgiveness. They followed a system rooted in the law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets, which emphasized that reconciliation with God was always possible for those who returned to Him with sincere hearts. Even the most severe offenses, acts like murder, adultery, or outright betrayal, were seen as forgivable if a person truly repented. This wasn't just a vague hope, it was built into the rhythm of their worship. Sacrifices, prayers, and annual observances like the Day of Atonement reinforced the idea that God's mercy was deeper than any human failing. People understood that turning back to God meant restoration. The religious leaders of the time, particularly the Pharisees, took this system very seriously. They emphasized strict obedience to God's law as the path to righteousness. For them, maintaining ritual purity and moral effort were not just recommendations, they were essential. Their teachings created a framework where forgiveness felt attainable through disciplined religious practice. Yet this same dedication to the law also made them wary of anyone who claimed authority outside their established traditions. That's why they constantly questioned Jesus. His popularity and his message challenged their interpretation of holiness and forgiveness. They saw him as a threat to the order they worked so hard to protect. This tension set the stage for a radical new teaching that would shake their entire understanding of grace. People lived with the confidence that no failure, no matter how grave, placed them beyond redemption, as long as they turned back. This widespread belief in limitless divine mercy makes what Jesus says next all the more startling. It reframes everything. How could a miraculous healing lead to the most serious charge imaginable? Jesus encounters a man who is both blind and mute because of a demonic presence. This man lives in complete isolation, unable to see the world around him or speak to anyone in it. His condition represents more than physical suffering, it's a picture of spiritual bondage. With deep compassion, Jesus acts. He doesn't perform a complex ritual, he simply commands the demon to leave. Instantly, the man's eyes open. For the first time in who knows how long, he sees faces, light, color. Then he speaks. His first words might have been a cry of thanks or just a gasp of wonder. The crowd watches, completely amazed. They've just witnessed a total restoration. But the religious leaders don't join in the wonder. They see an opportunity. Instead of acknowledging God's power, they claim Jesus is operating by the ruler of demons, Beelzebub. They say he only casts out demons because he's in league with evil. It's a deliberate, public accusation designed to undermine everything Jesus represents. Think about what that means. They're taking an act of divine mercy and calling it dark magic. They see goodness and name it evil. This isn't a simple disagreement. It's a purposeful mislabeling of God's work as Satan's. That creates a serious spiritual problem. If people begin to believe that the power of God is actually the power of evil, they might turn away from the very source of help. This accusation forces Jesus to respond. He doesn't just defend himself. He uses this moment to introduce an idea that would have stunned everyone listening. He says, there is a sin that cannot be forgiven, not because God is unwilling to forgive, but because the person committing it has rejected the only way forgiveness comes. The conversation suddenly shifts from a healed body to the eternal state of a person's soul. What began as a miracle becomes a moment of eternal consequence. Is it a single word spoken in anger or something far more profound? Jesus declares that blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is the one sin that cannot be forgiven. That statement immediately raises a natural fear. Could someone accidentally cross a line with God? Could a moment of doubt or a careless comment place them beyond hope? Jesus makes it clear that this is not about a one-time mistake. It's not a slip of the tongue or a temporary lapse in faith. The unforgivable sin is a deliberate and ongoing rejection of the Holy Spirit's work. The Spirit constantly works to point people toward Jesus. He convicts us of sin, shines light on truth, and reveals the reality of salvation. When a person sees that work and persistently labels it as evil, they cut off their own path to forgiveness. Think of it like refusing the only rescue boat during a flood. The boat is there. It's available. But if you insist it's actually a trick or something dangerous, you won't get in. You reject your only means of safety. In the same way, the Holy Spirit offers grace and points to Jesus as the way to be forgiven. To call that evil, to see God's kindness and call it darkness, is to refuse the very thing that could save you. This isn't a sudden act, it's a settled condition of the heart. A person who commits this sin isn't confused or scared. They have fully understood the work of God and have made a conscious, continuing choice to oppose it. They harden their heart against the truth they know. That's why Jesus' teaching moves the focus away from a single action and toward a person's overall direction. It's about where someone is headed, not just where they have been. This understanding should relieve the worry of those who fear they might have accidentally fallen into this sin. If you're concerned about it, that concern itself shows your heart is still soft and open. You haven't turned away from the Spirit's prompting. You're still listening. If you worry you have committed this sin, that concern shows your heart remains open. The Holy Spirit continues to work in you. God's grace is always available for those who respond. The unforgivable sin is a settled rejection, not a moment of fear. For those still listening, grace remains close. Let this understanding bring you peace. God's mercy is wide and deep, ready for all who turn toward it. Your awareness of His presence is the very sign you haven't turned away. Trust that gentle conviction. Rest in that assurance.
Like and subscribe.